Assignment desk from News Chopper Alpha. We are in position. We got it here. Copy that. We'll punch in. If you hear me on microwave, we'll get some close up of that there. This is perfect. We can work with this. Anybody else around, Patrick? Anybody else around? Cool. .450 man with a gun. Oh, heads up. Assignment desk from News Chopper Alpha. The SUV is on the run, just a heads up, back in pursuit mode. You're good. We'll get him. We'll pick him up here. We got him. Assignment desk for News Chopper Alpha. We are working to get back over this around LAX. Just give us a second here. Hang in. Heads up, Patrick. It just did a U-turn. It just did a U-turn. It is ripping the opposite direction, but it looks like its tire's locked up. I know they're missing at least one tire because they hit the spike strip, so this shouldn't last too long. We'll see, we'll see. They are, yep, south so far. Still south, still south. Perfect. Just did another U-turn, Patrick. I know, I know, I know. All right, they're ripping northbound. I have them still. All right, they're gonna try. Oh, I don't want to say it actually. We're ripping northbound. Front right is almost on the rim. This shouldn't last long. They're lining up to take a left turn. They're dipping around traffic. It was a tough angle. I'll zoom out and see if we see them pop out anywhere, but it looks like the cops are coming to a stop. All right, I think they called it stopped on the scanner. I'm watching that little sliver on the right. Nope, it's still going northbound very slowly, very slowly. Creeping northbound, all right, it's picking up speed now. Copy on the 161 as close as we can get. This is in a tough area with LAX, so we're as close as we can get. I'll punch in here now that they come to a stop. Hey guys, and if you're just joining us, we are following LAPD in pursuit of a 450 man with a gun. The 77th Division of LAPD picked up this pursuit, what I believe is about 15-20 minutes ago, just moments ago. They had this at almost code 6 here, stopped, but again, the suspect picked up the pursuit again, and we've seen them go north and southbound on Vermont, leading police on this very dangerous pursuit. We've seen them almost hit a number of vehicles. We saw the spike strips deployed a number of times, so as we come around, and we'll get rid of this glare for you, and you can see that the front right there is on the rim, and this suspect very tenacious. So we'll start to zoom out a little bit as this pursuit almost comes to an end, but we can never tell. This vehicle keeps trying to advance. You see the sheer amount of cruisers on scene here. We have at least eight cruisers there, and a couple more tailing this. We saw this come to a standoff earlier, and then the suspect was able to shimmy past these spiked strips. But as you can see, we'll see this front right again on this car is out. So we'll see if they continue this pursuit. We've seen them go north and south here on Vermont. They haven't gone west and east much since it first came to a stop. And you can see even on a handful of wheels, probably about half of the wheels on the rim, they're still going to continue this pursuit northbound here on Vermont. An LAPD in close pursuit here, looking to try and bring this to an end. As you see, they have a number of cruisers on scene, at least 8 that we counted there as they almost started another standoff. But as you can see, we've come to a slow pursuit here of this red. Sorry, I'm gathering a little more information here. You see that tire there just slapping. That should be on the rim very shortly. And again, a very slow speed pursuit here on Vermont in the Inglewood area. You see our angle to this as we have to look out and watch out for LAX's runway. We can't get too close to this, but still able to zoom in and show you exactly what's happening. And you see with this slow speed pursuit, LAPD now keeping their distance, as again the initial call came out as man with a gun. So LAPD taking the utmost caution here in this pursuit, trying to bring this to a safe conclusion. Assignment desk for News Chopper Alpha. Are we hot online or hot on the air? Copy that, guys. Copy out. We'll zoom out. And if you're just joining us online again, we have been following this pursuit, 77th Division of LAPD in pursuit of a 450 man with a gun. And they keep going forward, that building's going to get in our way. So as it might appear, it's coming to a standoff. So as LAPD goes code 6 and starts to set up for this standoff, we'll swing around and try and get a different angle here, get around this building in case that vehicle starts to creep again. And when we first got on this pursuit, we saw that it was a standoff. We saw a number of LAPD vehicles, at least 8, barricaded for this standoff, and then they laid out spike strips in front of it, and somehow the suspect was able to dodge both spike strips, only clipping their front right. And then as they pursued on Vermont, they were going north and southbound, turning U-turn after U-turn. They eventually hit another series of spike strips, and that's why, as you can see, car leaning on its front right there. LAPD setting up again for another standoff here, but they have to be very cautious as, again, the call initially came out as a man with a gun. So you never know what could happen here. And you see they're setting up, trying to give the driver instructions, very clear instructions over their megaphone, or if they're close enough, just yelling, trying to tell the driver exactly what to do to keep the driver safe and LAPD safe, because, again, you never know with a suspect that's fled multiple times here in this pursuit, started and stopped, you never know what exactly could happen, and you don't want anyone put in danger. You see, if I zoom out there, they've closed Vermont down to traffic, trying to clear it out. We'll see LAPD get on the southbound side of Vermont here soon and cut off southbound traffic to try and clear this area out. But, I mean, look to the left there through the trees and the power lines. You see people, they should not be that close, but again, they cannot, cannot help themselves. As LAPD gets on scene, they'll start to clear this out, start to move people around and get those spectators out of there, because this is a very dangerous scene. You don't want to be anywhere near this. And right now we're stopped at about the area of 85th and Vermont. We started this pursuit in Inglewood. Sorry, just checking our maps program here to get a little bit of a bearing. You see we're a little still, I believe, in Inglewood, maybe the north side of it. South LA, sorry. So we're in South LA. You see very tense standoff with LAPD as they try and communicate with the driver. When we first got here, it looked like this, a standoff. We saw somebody on the sidewalk, possibly relative or someone that knows the driver. We saw them trying to talk with the driver, and it seemed like a very frustrating process. And then we saw the driver take off in pursuit again after a standoff just like this one, where they repeatedly went northbound and southbound on Vermont, driving very dangerously, running lights. They did not collide with any vehicles, thankfully. And look at that again, on only a handful of wheels, maybe half the wheels left, they're going to go pursuit again. And LAPD ready this time. You see they jumped right in their cars. They even had one ready for them. And as we pass through 83rd in Vermont northbound here, we are to the north of them, so you will see them get a little closer to us and possibly go under us depending on how long this goes on. But a very slow pursuit here as that vehicle on at least 3 wheels. We know the front passenger side hit the spike strip. It's just slapping now. It's only a matter of time until that tire comes off the rim, and that the driver will be on a rim. So we can't expect this to go very high speed, but this is a very unpredictable pursuit. We'll have to see how it goes. You see LAPD keeping their distance, following this carefully, slowly. We saw at least 8 cruisers in this initial pursuit. Other cruisers on scene here working traffic control when it comes to a standoff, trying to keep pedestrians and anyone around safe. So LAPD definitely has tactics to, incapacitate some of the other tires on this vehicle. We'll have to see exactly where they deploy those. We know they don't want this to go on any longer than it has to, but this driver seems intent on making it last as long as possible. And again, if you're just joining us, this is a pursuit that kicked off about half an hour ago in Inglewood. We're in South LA now at about, I believe, if he's crossed 2 streets, we're at about 78th in Vermont as this driver continues northbound on Vermont in this very slow pursuit. This was a 450 man suspect with a gun. So LAPD keeping their distance, trying to end this pursuit as safely as possible. That's why you see them back. You don't in these sort of cases, you're very reticent to attempt a pit, as you don't want to put yourself that close to the suspect driver. And I mean, just look how slow this pursuit's going. You see the tire slapping there. It's almost off the rim. Looks like we're going to stop here at about 76. And again, look at this, driving again, heading into a side lane. And this is a school zone, so they need to be very careful here. We see that driver turning eastbound there on 75th Street. Now we're in neighborhood roads here in South LA. LAPD keeping 4 or 5 car lengths back, not trying to get too close, but definitely trying to terminate this pursuit. We'll start to zoom in here and see if we can get an idea of the suspect. You see, even though they've deployed multiple spike strips, we have both driver's side tires. That front might be flat, but those rims are so big that it wouldn't make much of a difference, flat or not flat. We'll see if that tire shears off, but the passenger side front wheel, much bigger, looked like a spare, so that has a lot more rubber slapping, slowing this vehicle down. So we're still eastbound 75th Street, almost approaching Hoover, just past Hoover here in South LA. You see LAPD still keeping 4 or 5 car lengths back, not wanting to get too close, because this is a very, very unpredictable and dangerous pursuit, especially the nature of it. Taking it into these neighborhood areas is so dangerous. And look at this, we've come across our first vehicle, did not happen to contact it, thankfully. I'll show you what's ahead here on 75th. And again, if you're that close, you really need to get back. The nature of this is very dangerous. We're going to zoom out here. You never know what could happen in a sort of situation like this. Again, this call came out as a man with a gun. LAPD 77th Division went pursuit, and they've been following this vehicle in a stop and start pursuit for about a little over half an hour here. We've seen it stop at multiple points in South LA here on Vermont, but now we're in neighborhood streets. We're right off of 75th Street, so this is a much more dangerous situation. I mean, you have people watching right in their driveway. Someone's just taking a stroll, walking right past this standoff. I mean, you need to get away from this scene if you're anywhere close to this. And we've seen this, again, if you're just joining us, we've seen this pursuit start and stop. We've seen this multiple times, mostly on Vermont, and now we are on these neighborhood side streets. And the nature of this pursuit is very dangerous. The call came out as a man with a gun. So this is going to be an armed standoff here. Police trying to reason with the driver. They have one of the windows open. So we saw a hand come up. We hope that they're cooperating. What we're looking for is for 2 hands to come out of the vehicle. It looks like we saw almost 2 hands come out. We're looking for 2 hands. They're going to issue the driver a series of commands. Hopefully he cooperates. We'll see what happens. We saw hands come up, and the window looks like it's gone back up. Very heavily tinted window, so again, almost impossible for LAPD to try and see what that driver is doing. If those windows are up, you have no idea. I mean, those windows are almost tinted black, and now someone seemingly unrelated seemed to walk up there. They definitely should get away from the scene. LAPD, I'm sure, telling them to get away from that. You see their hands up. And nature of this pursuit, I mean, this was started in South LA on Vermont. We've seen it stop and go, but now this is in neighborhood. This is in people's driveways and in their backyards. This is very dangerous. Now someone's standing in front of the pursuit vehicle. They need to move. This is very dangerous. We've seen this stop and start a number of times. The driver not seeming to care how many tires they have. They want to keep this going as long as possible with the windows down again. Yelling at people on the side of the street. And look at this, more people coming down 75th Street around this very dangerous pursuit. This is a very tough spot to do crowd control. I mean, you see the sheer amount of people there. There's people to the top of your frame in the driveway there. There's people at the bottom there on the sidewalk. You need to stay away from this vehicle. We've seen this stop and start multiple times. You have no idea what this driver could do. Neither does LAPD. That's why they're keeping their distance. You should, at least as a rule, be further away than LAPD. But we see them a car length apart. I mean, they're talking with the driver. The window's coming down, going up. LAPD trying to issue commands. Those people on the side of the road right there speaking with the driver, but we haven't seen any hands come out, so not complying with LAPD at this time. LAPD, of course, telling them to have their hands out so they can see what this driver's doing. We've seen this before. The hands come out, the door opens up. They will exit the vehicle with their hands up in the air. But again, we've seen none of that. We've seen the window go up and down. There seem to be bickering or yelling with some of the people on the side of the street there. And I'm sure getting in the way of LAPD's commands to this driver, trying to bring this pursuit to a peaceful end here in South LA. Again, this is right off of 75th and Fig, right off 75th and Figueroa here in South LA. So we'll see. We've seen that window come down. We see a driver holding a picture outside. We saw the driver hold a picture out. We didn't happen to catch what that is, but we also saw something else in his hand. We don't want to zoom in too much here. This is a very unpredictable pursuit. We've seen it stop and start. You don't know what can happen. And now someone's driven their own vehicle, it looks like. Trying to hear some of the news coming across the scanner there. So we know he has a gun in his lap, but he also is showing people that picture. We don't know what that picture was, but we don't want to zoom in. I mean, this pursuit is very unpredictable. We can't zoom in too much because we don't know what's going to happen. But I mean, look at the crowd gathering there to the left of the screen. A number of people coming out of their homes, coming down the street to watch this. If you are in the area, you need to get away from this. This is a very dangerous situation. This standoff first started at about Vermont and 108th, but now it's happening on side streets here in South LA, 75th and Figueroa. This is right in the neighborhood in people's driveways. You see people on their porch watching. So you see this man we're hearing is about 32 years old. He's got some sort of picture or possibly a book he's holding out. And this is, as you can see, a very, very bizarre situation here unfolding at the end of this pursuit, assumably, but we've seen this pursuit stop and start. We saw the suspect holding some sort of picture out. We'll see if we can get a look at what exactly the suspect is holding out. It looks as if it's a picture. I can't exactly see what it's a picture of. But as the driver reaches around in the car, I mean, we have to zoom out here. We don't know what exactly can happen, but you see, look at the amount of LAPD vehicles on this, just from the west there, I believe. I mean, look at that. It's at least 8 vehicles. You know, they're on the other side of 75th, trying to do traffic control, because as we've seen, a number of people on this scene. I mean, this number of spectators. I mean, because this is happening right off of people's front porch. I mean, we've seen people come out of their house. We'll have to see what exactly that suspect is holding out there. I can't exactly get a good look at it, but we know that suspect is about a 32-year-old male. We see he's wearing a white shirt, very tinted windows, so unless those windows are down, we won't be able to see anything, but trying to communicate, the suspect communicating there with people on the side of the street. Copy that, we'll keep it wide. So we've seen that window come down a number of times. We see the suspect out again there. Out of the window, we see his white shirt there, out of the driver's window, and a number of LAPD vehicles here. We've seen this pursuit start and stop a number of times, so if you do not want to be in front of this vehicle, do not stand in the middle of the street. We've seen this stop. We saw it stop on Vermont and 108th. We saw it stop on Vermont and 104th. This vehicle went north and south a number of times, turned a couple U-turns, taking LAPD on this lengthy, slow pursuit to the end there after the initial standoff. And again, the call came out as a man with a gun. We saw that the man was about 32 years old, wearing a white shirt. So a very dangerous situation here for both bystanders and LAPD. So just gathering details here from the scanner and from our desk. LAPD trying to, of course, block any more bystander vehicles from getting close to this scene. This is dangerous enough for LAPD, but you should not be near this. We've seen people standing right next to the driver, talking with the driver holding out some sort of book with someone's face on it, possibly a yearbook or some other. So it almost looked like a collage when we saw them flap it around a little bit. So we don't exactly know what they're saying, but a number of bystanders there right next to the driver. This is very dangerous. You need to get back if you are in this area. Assignment task from Alpha. Do you guys have any more details to work with? I think that rear window's down now, and again the driver's window down. We see the driver's white shirt, but it's hard to see what they're doing, and that looks like the pursuit's going to start up again. People clearing off out of 75th, and he's going to go down an alley. People were just standing in that alley. There might not be enough room. It almost looks like the driver's going to get stuck there. Patrick, it looks like he's stuck, just a heads up. And again, LAPD at gunpoint here with the suspect. It looks like the suspect's pinned, got stuck against a parked car, but it looks like they're just going to scrape past it here and keep going. Very narrow, and as we talked about, we saw that the wheel would come off, and now the wheel is almost off the rim there. So you're not going to get a lot of torque out of just a rim scraping along the concrete. A very narrow alleyway. The suspect has come to a stop here. LAPD out of their vehicles again at gunpoint in the alleyway, and a very close crowd of bystanders following behind them. I'm sure they're going to get cleared out very soon. And again, this hasn't gone much far from where we saw it stopped at about 75th and Figueroa here in South LA. This is directly in people's backyards. I mean, someone's window is not more than 6 or 8 feet from this scene, and the vehicle still slowly pushing forward, even with one of the wheels just slapping on the rim there. So as this vehicle stops, we've seen LAPD go code 6. They're out of their vehicles at gunpoint, but that's not stopping the suspect from continuing this pursuit. And we've seen this again stop a number of times, and now we're just stopped again. This is a very stop-and-go pursuit. We saw the suspect trying to show someone's picture out of the window earlier. We'll see if that seems to happen again, and they're trying to go foot by foot here through the alleyway, and they're going to have a hard time with that tire completely off the rim on the front, and we know that one of the rear tires was flat, so I'm sure that is not helping this vehicle move at all. creeping slowly through this as the suspect revs her engine, trying to get any torque out of this. And again, we said the suspect is wearing a white shirt. You can see the white shirt sticking out of the driver's side window there. We've seen the window come down a number of times, but when those windows are up, this vehicle has heavy tint on all windows, so it's hard to see anything there. And we'll keep a wide shot because this is a very unpredictable and dangerous situation. We don't know what exactly can happen, so we won't zoom in at all, but you can see that vehicle still creeping forward inches by inches there through the alleyway, trying to get any torque out of that vehicle as they can. But I mean, we'll start to zoom out here a little bit more. And I mean, this suspect trying to keep this pursuit going. We've seen the vehicle creep and move, and we've seen the driver's window come down a number of times. The driver tried to show us some sort of picture. And this all started more than half an hour ago. This call came out as a man with a gun, a 450 man with a gun. LAPD went pursuit. This is the 77th Division. We saw them in a armed standoff at gunpoint at about 108th and Vermont. That's when the suspect took off, but LAPD had spike strips. They were there for so long they had set up spike strips in front of them in vehicles, but somehow the suspect was able to evade the positioning set up by LAPD. They hit only one of the spike strips, and we saw them go repeatedly northbound and southbound on Vermont, making a number of U-turns until they started going eastbound here on 75th. And then we've seen them, now that they had hit those spike strips, we saw that they had lost most control out of those wheels. So this has turned into a very slow speed pursuit, and now it doesn't seem like they can get, the suspect can get much movement here. We see something sticking out of the driver's side window. We saw a hand come out, we saw a shoulder. I believe the door is open, but we don't, again, the nature of this pursuit, we don't want to zoom in too much here. A very unpredictable, dangerous pursuit for everyone involved. And you see there, I'll zoom out just to show you, they've blocked this alley off, so the driver pretty much knows they have nowhere to go. It looks like the driver's out of the vehicle. We see the driver's hands are up. We're hearing reports that they may have thrown something out of the vehicle. LAPD has pretty much surrounded this suspect. A number of LAPD officers waiting for him there in the alleyway. I mean, look at the crowd gathering behind there. There's at least 50 people that we saw come out of their homes. And again, we're just going to zoom out. The nature of this pursuit, very unpredictable, very dangerous. We saw this stop and start a number of times, so we don't exactly know what could happen. But you see there in the center of your screen, the white shirt, the driver's exited the vehicle. LAPD trying to detain this suspect and bring this pursuit to a peaceful ending. LAPD, they're attempting to take the suspect into custody. Walking up to them, we see their white shirt there. And they're issuing a number of commands to him. They're asking him to keep his hands up, to lay flat on the ground. And it looks like LAPD has brought that person into custody. We don't see their white shirt anymore. So it looks like LAPD has successfully taken them into custody. They have cuffs on them, so that will bring this pursuit to an end. This was a very lengthy pursuit. If you've been with us the whole time, about 40 minutes or so, we saw a standoff going on, and then we saw that suspect take off on Vermont, a number of U-turns. We saw them hit spike strips. They lost control of 2 tires, and then this was all happening in South LA. We saw them take down, or start going down neighborhood streets right off 75th. But as you can see, this has come to a relatively peaceful ending here. It's code 4. LAPD has them in custody, and they're going to start to search for evidence as they begin the investigation. We know something was thrown out of the window. You see them, they're going to walk the suspect to the vehicle. Thankfully, the suspect seems to be okay. Seems like they didn't hit too many vehicles. We were at a tough angle for a little bit, so we didn't see if they had clipped any vehicles on Vermont, but we saw them scrape past that vehicle in this alleyway, but LAPD had both ends of this blocked off, so nowhere for this suspect to go. And as LAPD loads them into their cruiser there, that's officially going to bring this pursuit to an end. A very lengthy pursuit. If you're just joining us, started in South LA just about an hour ago. We saw a very lengthy standoff with LAPD at about 108 and Vermont. It was a lengthy standoff, a number of LAPD vehicles standing off at gunpoint with the suspect, and somehow the suspect took off, managed to evade some of the spike strips, hit their front wheel on them, lost control of that front wheel, and the pursuit then turned into a slow-speed pursuit up and down Vermont, and then eventually turned onto side streets, got to about 75th and Figueroa, when it seemed like the suspect vehicle was not able to continue the pursuit. We saw them another lengthy standoff, and bystanders and neighbors there in that area coming out, actually speaking with that suspect. Right, the suspect had rolled their window down, speaking with the suspect. We even saw someone dancing next to the car. And then the suspect tried to start the pursuit again, tried to go down an alleyway, but got stuck on a parked car, between a parked car and a telephone pole, and that's when LAPD cut off the north side of that alley and then cut off the south side, leaving that suspect with nowhere to go, and thankfully bringing this pursuit to a peaceful ending here in South LA. And if you've been with us from the start, I am Josh Kuzo and News Chopper Alpha, and thank you for joining us. Assignment desk from News Chopper Alpha. Do you guys want us to stay over this scene?